From setting up a fight with one of the best heavyweights in boxing right now, to this being one of the dumbest decisions Ngannou could have made in his career, here's why Ngannou vs. Wilder is massive news. First up is the fact that these two powerhouses are finally colliding. Francis Ngannou is one of the most dangerous men on the planet right now. However, the same could be said for Deontay Wilder as well. Both of these dudes are insanely strong and have an insane amount of knockout power. It's a wonder that this wasn't the first fight set up when Ngannou first came onto the boxing scene. Regardless, what matters now is that the fight is finally here. Well, it will be soon enough. For now, we get to sit down and dissect everything about the fight and what could end up happening. I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty hyped up for the fight. It's going to be an epic brawl between two very talented individuals. Ngannou might be new to the sport, but he's bringing a huge hype train with him. Now, before we get carried away, let's start breaking down the fight. Personally, I'd like to start by talking about their knockout power.
Francis Ngannou has the world record for the most powerful punch.
These two have insane amounts of power in their hands. I mean, back when Ngannou was still fighting in the UFC, Dana White measured the power his punches generate.
His punch is the equivalent to 96 horsepower. Holy
The result will probably leave your jaw dropped to the floor. It turns out that Ngannou's punches generate the same amount of power as a minivan crashing into something at full speed. So when they say that getting punched by Ngannou is like getting hit by a truck, trust me, they really do mean it.
His punch is the equivalent to 96 horsepower, which is equal to getting hit by a Ford Escort going as fast as it can.
The same can be said about Wilder. The man has won most of his fights via knockout.
He's showing the work rate. He's hitting. Heads to burn. Goes down in round one.
He's so dangerous that he's even knocked people out by throwing a simple jab. Imagine having so much punching power that all you need to do is land one good jab. That's simply unreal to think about. The fact that these two men are now going to meet in the ring is pretty awesome. We're going to get the chance to check out two Goliaths going at it with each other. What could be better than that? Anyways, let's take a look at each fighter up close. Let's start off with Francis Ngannou. Alright, so taking into account the fact that he's from an MMA background, you can expect that he won't be the best boxer out there. However, it's worth noting the fact that even while he was fighting under an MMA format, he relied on boxing more heavily as opposed to using kicks, etc.
The greatest heavyweight in the world.
You go into the fire with Ngannou, you go to sleep. Oh my goodness. Wow.
With that in mind, you can expect Ngannou to be pretty decent against Wilder. It's also worth noting the fact that both of these men are considered to be brawlers. In case you're confused, it means that they rely more heavily on hoping one of their shots land as opposed to technique. Now, I'm not saying that they're completely clueless in the techniques department, it's just that they don't seem to use that area of their skill set very often. Even in his last fight, you could see how Ngannou focused more on swinging cluelessly as opposed to trying to outwit his opponents. Regardless, from what I could tell, it seems to be working wonders for him so far. It's like they say, don't fix what isn't broken. Anyways, we've focused on Ngannou for long enough. Let's talk a bit about Deontay Wilder. This man can only be described as nothing short of a machine. The best part is that he's only got one attack mode, and that's kill. I mean, if he can knock people out with a single jab, then he's gotta be something special. At least he's managed to prove as much throughout his career. So far, no one except Fury has been able to match his ferocity in the ring. Even then, he managed to knock Fury out before he magically got up and fought again. So when it comes to a bout between him and Ngannou, you just know that it's going to be epic. Since he's a pure boxer, he's going to have the upper hand coming into the fight. It's also worth noting that he has a height and reach advantage over Ngannou as well. While Ngannou still manages to retain the weight advantage, reach can be a very powerful tool in this sport. The fact that Wilder has the ability to knock people out with singular punches, combined with his reach advantage over Ngannou, it's definitely going to make coming out with the win a challenge for his rival. However, we can't count him out just yet. If there's anything I've learned over the years I've spent watching this sport, it's the fact that you can never truly know what'll happen till the final bell rings. Anyways, before we move on to the fight itself, let's check out what Ngannou has to say about the whole thing, and trust me, he seems pretty excited.
Careful, it hits back, it hits back.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
You know, you'd think that when you're debuting against one of the most dangerous boxers in the game right now, you'd be a little scared to say the least. But this guy seems to be ecstatic and ready to go. He came out and talked about how both he and Wilder are pretty hyped about the whole thing. I'm not gonna lie, I'm glad that both these fighters are on cloud 9. It's nice to see them both having a certain amount of mutual respect while also being able to maintain a healthy rivalry between them. Ngannou also talked about how he's excited to step into the world of boxing. It's not every day you see an MMA fighter willingly step into a boxing ring. He also seems glad to be able to take a step back from all the takedowns. I guess it's easier to focus on just punching instead of all the other stuff. Regardless, let's talk about the fight itself, how it'll end up going, and what we can expect from it. And be warned, it'll be a banger. As I said, while Ngannou has the weight advantage, Wilder comes in strong with reach and height advantage. So if he plays his cards right, he should be able to get away with an easy victory. No matter what people say, you have to remember that Wilder has been boxing for a lot longer than Ngannou. Even though Ngannou has experience with boxing, he's nowhere near as skilled as Wilder when it comes to it. Wilder just has a better overall chance of coming out victorious. That's also probably the reason why Ngannou talked about it being a series of fights instead of just one. Even he knows he has a higher chance of losing than coming out on top. If I'm being completely honest, Wilder just wasn't a good choice when it comes to debut fights.
Right hand and down he goes.
There it is. Good
Deontay Wilder is back.
I mean, who wants Deontay Wilder as their first ever opponent? That's just not a smart choice, no matter who you are. You have to remember that Wilder managed to knock Tyson Fury out, and that man is the best heavyweights out there right now.
Big right hand that connected by Wilder.
So with that in mind, I really don't think Francis Ngannou is going to be much of a challenge. However, I could be wrong. Who knows? Maybe Ngannou will end up landing a lucky shot and get the win. One thing's for sure, and that's the fact that if Wilder somehow loses to Ngannou, he's probably not going to be getting another title shot anytime soon.
The winner, and
Still, the more likely outcome is that Wilder ends up taking home the win. That was everything in the upcoming fight between Wilder and Ngannou.
Deontay